the prayer skill is arguably one of the most important available in the entire game, allowing players to protect both themselves and their items from disaster, while also allowing them to deal incredible amounts of damage. In this series, I'll be using it to the fullest while trying to complete some of the most difficult PvM challenges and making sure an altar is always close by. This is my altar chunk Ironman. Hey everyone, and welcome back for episode 4. So before we hop into the episode, I wanted to go ahead and talk about my endgame goals and how I plan to achieve them. When it comes to doing boss kills, I actually have a pretty good variety to choose from. The God's Wars bosses are the most accessible since all of their rooms do contain a prayer altar. When it comes to doing things like raids, nightmare, or nex, I'll have to find a group willing to carry me along while I try and pull my weight in the best gear that I have. Doing Barrows runs is also entirely possible with 1 or 2 chunk unlocks, and having sets like Guthans or Darox can make my solo bossing content a lot easier. Some other bosses I could consider doing would be things like the Abyssal Sire, Sarachnis, and even Cerberus if I unlock the chunk directly above Intrana. For me to do Barrows runs, I'll need to raise my magic, herblore, and combat stats so I can actually use the gear when I get a hold of it, and have enough prayer points to get me through multiple runs. This is going to be my main goal that I'll be working towards right now. Bosses like the Abyssal Sire and Cerberus do require pretty high Slayer levels, but I can use the Temple Trekking minigame if I do unlock Bergderod and stack up XP tomes to help train it, since doing Slayer tasks normally would be pretty difficult. A few other things I want to achieve for the endgame would be getting an untrimmed prayer cape, a fire cape, completing the God Wars collection logs, trimmed monk robes, and the best in slot prayer gear that I can get within my account restrictions. But with the Barrows brothers in our sights, let's get to work on earning the stats and items I'll need to start farming them. I wanted to start off with magic since unlocking teleports would be really helpful while I work on the stuff I need for Barrows, and with my attack already at 40, I wanted to get a rune scimitar too. The Zamorak warriors under the Arenia altar have a pretty good drop rate for it, and they can be safe spotted, so I figured why not start there. Plus I could kill the Zamorak monks outside for some robe pieces. And there's the rune scimitar. That only took 14 kills and it got me up to 22 magic, so yeah, I'm really glad I thought to come over here and try this. This was a good idea. So I wanted to try safe spotting the big frogs to get some big bones early on, but the problem is safe spotting them while trying to stay in the safe zone is kind of a pain in the ass, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and switch up to melee and maybe do magic later. Plus it'd be nice to break out that new rune scimitar. And there we are, coming in with 40 defense. This is way faster than doing magic, so all these big bones banked up in no time, and then we can go back to the Chaos Altar. You know, I'll totally admit to it, I'm someone who gives a lot of shit to PKers, but while I was doing these big bone runs, I didn't even run into any scouts or anyone that was harassing me. I didn't get attacked one single time. I even had some higher level guys come along and actually had some pretty decent conversations with them, so good on for some PKers for not all being a bunch of shitheads. That's going to be 37 prayer, which means we get our very first overhead. I kind of wish I had come up with a special milestone for these other than a chunk lock, because these are super important for the account, but man, it's so nice to be able to turn that prayer on and actually see it over top of my head while I run around. There's 40 prayer coming in, and that'll give us protect from missiles. Only one more overhead to go, and I can go back to doing probably some more magic training. Back to the big frogs, because I totally miscounted the amount of big bones I would need. And there we have it, 43 prayer, and arguably the best overhead protect prayer unlocked. I kind of wanted to go back to magic training after this, but I'd rather go do herblore and construction instead. I did stack up a lot of herbs on my first druid run, so hopefully they get me through a lot of the early levels, plus I want to get my house built up so I can put down an altar inside. I do know a lot of other Snowflake accounts actually rely pretty heavily on their POH for the tool stores and stuff, so I'll have to see what else I can put down. I've never actually looked too much into it. I didn't get as many levels as I hoped out of the herbs I could use, but I still made it to 24 after using my Guams and Maritals, plus cleaning whatever was left over. It was also fun just absolutely decimating the unicorn population on Intrana and throwing their horns into the deposit box in Port Sarim, which, is exactly what you do on the most peaceful island in RuneScape. For my construction training, I'm pretty much going to stick to limestone brick items like a lot of Ultimate Ironman accounts used to before better methods came out for them. I can use them to make garden rocks from level 5 up until I hit 45 so I can put down my altar room. I actually almost fucked up and lost my stuff when I went to buy these pickaxes because I underestimated how far it was over to the dwarf that actually sells them. But once I could use the rune pickaxe, I wasn't even finishing a full swing before getting a limestone, so that was definitely worth the risk in the end. I also had to stay a lot longer because I didn't know you can fail to make limestone bricks with a chisel if you're below 40 crafting, so I think I lost maybe an hour total at having to get a few more inventories, but Once I had enough limestone banked, I could move on to grabbing some iron bars in the wilderness to get myself to level 5 by making exit portals. There is a single iron bar spawn right outside of the enclave, but the shitty thing was it was right outside of my safe zone, so that was a few rather annoying minutes of world hopping, but once I had them gathered all up, I was ready to move along. Okay, so before I actually go and do construction, I wanted to come back here real quick and just get my magic up to 40 so I have the house teleport. I figured, fuck it, maybe I'll get lucky and get another rune scimitar, but at least that way I can burn through a couple more magic levels and some of these mine runes, which I bought way too many of. Okay, there's 40 magic, now we can move along to construction. So the first thing to do was unlocking the chunk in Remington, which opened up my very first house portal. Then I just had to make a couple of exit portals for level 5 construction before making garden rocks the rest of the way to 45. I could have done oak larders after hitting 33, which are almost 5 times the XP of garden rocks, but the cost of making enough oak planks from the sawmill would have been completely ridiculous, so I just stuck to the limestone method. Plus having files just outside the portal to note all my materials made it no problem. While I was doing this, I started to think about the best way to use each chunk my house could be moved to after my altar room was built. I already have Remington unlocked. Taverley and Hosidius aren't necessary since I have those chunks unlocked from altars already being there, and the Anile chunk which contains the house portal isn't that useful anyways. Prifddinas is a bit of a pipe dream until I'm sure I could pull off that massive quest line, which leaves me with Palnavich, Relica, and Brimhaven. Palnavich would give me a great break between traveling to the Agility Pyramid or Narda later, Brimhaven has the Agility course, and Relica could get me started on a bunch of really good quests. Something else I was considering is whether or not I'll let myself unlock chunks that are next to the house portal chunk once my house is transported there. It would open up a lot of useful areas, but since my house won't always be there, I wasn't sure how to decide on that one. I might just make it so whatever chunk I unlock can only be used while my house portal is in that specific chunk, but I'd love to hear some feedback on that idea. Honestly, as long as I get the mole pet, I will dump a ton of money into this room to make it look nice just for that. You know, I don't really pay attention to it that much, at least I didn't before, but getting 500 total level on this account, that actually feels pretty cool. You know, now that I'm about to hit 45, I want to cap it off with building a nice fireplace in here. I'd love to sit down with a comfortable rocking chair and use it as kind of a backdrop for future clips. I just think that'd look kind of nice once I add like the rug and the curtains and all that. And now that I'm done with construction for the time being, I gotta go earn some money because the altar room costs 50k and I barely have any cash right now. I'll probably just go back and farm more Zamorak warriors since they drop the scimitars and they do drop rune daggers, which I can sell at the High Elk shop for some pretty nice profit. Before I went back to the Zamorak warriors, I wanted to get a magic amulet crafted since I had well over the required crafting level for making the limestone bricks. I got absolutely spoon-fed a rune full helmet greater demons and the gold bar which I needed to make the amulet since I can't really get a gold bar anywhere else. I also managed to grab a new subscriber while I was down there, so that was 100% worth the trip. And I also wanted to finally get the Easy Arty diary done, because waiting on my minigame teleport to recharge and drop me off at Castle Wars before running up to the altar chunk was getting really annoying. The cloak lets you teleport to the Arty Monastery infinitely, and getting it is pretty easy. The hardest part was actually getting a rusty sword, which could have come from either the fishing trawler or stealing it from ham members. I decided to just unlock the ham chunk and go with them, which turned out to be the right choice because I lucked out and got the sword in just a few pickpockets. I also had to hammer out a few more quests which were super easy with teleports and safe chunks, and most of it taking place in Arty. I ended up getting to 49 magic with the runes I had left at the Warriors before leaving with roughly 70k worth of alchables. Oh hell yeah, that's going to make my first crystal key. You always get a dragon's nose from the chest, so that's basically going to be a free glory or combat bracelet. I needed to get a bunch of limpwort roots to finish off my stack of Terramins, so I actually decided to unlock my next chunk. Right above Hosidius there's this like big peninsula, actually I can just show you, that a ton of hobgoblins spawn up. It's really close to a couple of banks and a prayer altar. There's also a bunch of snake grass that spawns up here, so gathering that up for when I do my prayer potions is going to be awesome. There it is, 38 herblore, which means prayer potions are officially unlocked for the account. This is honestly huge because it means I can consider doing a ton of quests that wouldn't have been possible without them when I travel into deeper danger zones. I'll be absolutely decimating the Chaos Druid community to get my hands on more Raynar weeds, and I can always work my way to farming them too. Hosidius has a patch you can use that will never get diseased if I get to 100% favor, so that's something I can do later. With prayer potions unlocked, my house altar built, and being well on my way to getting the stats for barrows, I think that's going to be a good place to cap off this episode. I need to spend a little time making some money so I can buy better gear and stack up runes to get my magic level up, and I also have a plan for getting some good quality food. I've also got some quests lined up that'll help me out in both the short and long term with the account. I'd also just like to thank everyone who's come back with questions and suggestions on how I could change things up for the account or content to consider for the future. I'm really looking forward to hitting the subscriber mark that lets me create community posts so I can interact more with everyone and get feedback on the account's progress. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.